Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
And welcome to the Weird Science Comics channel here on YouTube, where I'm going to be going through Action Comics number 1023. It's part of the House of Kent story, chapter 2 of that. And it is written by Brian Michael Bendis and art by John Romita Jr. And as you can see on the cover, it's a Red Cloud-centric story, and who really wants a Red Cloud-centric story? I don't know. Well, we go into it with such a heavy drop of recap exposition told through Kalex, just getting you on board with everything that hasn't happened in this book, because this book has been a garbage. It's been terrible. You end up having Connor Kent, Superboy from Young Justice, showing up in this. He's trying to figure out exactly what and who he is, while Kalex just goes on and on and on. Hopefully Kalex runs out of batteries. And it continues where you're going to set up the last issue's cliffhanger, which I actually did enjoy, where Red Cloud and Leone of the Invisible Mafia had set up both Lois and Jimmy to go to what ends up being Robinson Good's house, it seems now. I don't understand, but you end up having it. It was a trap for Red Cloud to then attack. Now, why in this Kalex narration, though? How does Kalex know this? And if Kalex knows this, why isn't Kalex telling Superman? It's one of the little bit of a nitpick deal, but again, it's kind of stupid. It's kind of silly, and it's going to be Red Cloud, as Red Cloud does, and pretty much as any villain that shows up in this book or in others that is a creation of Brian Michael Bendis. You're going to have Red Cloud just talk a big game, yell and scream about things, say how great they are. I almost killed Superman. I could have killed Superman, all these things, but we rarely get to see that. But in this, you end up having Red Cloud attacking Lois and Jimmy, pretty much saying, you know, we're trying to get to Superman, and we're not that stupid to kill you, Lois, but we'll kill Jimmy. Well, one of the things that ends up happening is that Lois whispers Smallville. This is the safe word for the Clark and Lois, and Superman hears that, and he ends up there in Smallville at the time with Ma and Pa Kent, Connor and John, and they're asking, hey, what's wrong? Well, what's wrong is you look ugly as hell, Clark, but not as bad as, say, John. And I don't know what's going on. And it's one of those things. Is John Romita Jr. trying to do one of those things where as you stare at something, it can change? Because as I look at Ma Kent, as I look at Martha, you can look and think she has her eyes closed. You can look and think that she has her eyes open with a weird slit, but ends up having this whole thing of her face. Just stare at her face for a second and try to figure out exactly what's going on there. Because at one point it looks like she's tired, but has two eyebrows. Then at one point, because you have the glasses up, maybe the indentions of the glass. I don't know. I really don't know. It looks terrible, but so does Superman, everybody else on the panel. What's wrong? Well, what's wrong is John Romita Jr. is drawing us. And so you end up having Superman say, hey, Connor, hey, John, let's go and save Lois and Jimmy, which they do end up showing up as Lois and Jimmy are being choked out by Red Cloud. You know, hey, can I help you? Hi, Mom. And the dialogue in this book and the conclusions that people are jumping to, they're getting a lot of exercise jumping that much. But the dialogue in this issue is horrendous. It is awful. It is so bad. Well, while this is going on, you end up, hey, who's this villain here? It's Red Cloud. She's a big disappointment. Yeah, she is. You're right. You're very, very right there. Well, they start going, and the whole thing is that Red Cloud, Robinson Good, is attacking Superman and going with this whole MO. We want to get you aliens off the planet. You guys are causing all the problems. Leviathan was right. All these things going on. In the middle of this, Jimmy just yells. Now, look at the panel here and look at Red Cloud up at the top. Jimmy says, hey, are you Robinson Good, the new city reporter at the Daily Planet? He jumps to this conclusion. They end up later, hey, Jimmy, why did you think that? Well, because it kind of looks like Robinson Good and sounds like her. Well, we have a different word bubble, so I'm thinking that that's a little different dialogue and sound than what you had from Robinson Good, and that does not look like Robinson Good. I don't know. Jimmy is really, really jumping to conclusions. He's right, but it's only just a forced deal here. There's other ways to figure this out. Well, you end up with Red Cloud attacking the super group here, Superman and both Superboys, and they just blow the house down, sends Robinson Good packing for a little bit. Now, at one point, John says, well, why didn't I end up sucking it in? And no, we can't do that, John. That would hurt you. Also, it's a living being. He's saying, I'm going to suck it into my lungs. And you can't do that, John. That's a bad move. It would suffocate us. And then John just goes, hey, it's not my favorite super move on a good day. And then Connor just yells, yeah, really, it didn't even occur to me. Well, why do we need to know that it didn't occur to Connor? It's so ridiculous. Well, we're going to continue the ridiculousness as they're trying to figure out what just went on. And you end up having Superman call Red Cloud, now Red Robinson. Hey, the Red Robinsons murdered all the people in the Invisible Mafia. It looks like they hid the bodies in that big pipe. And then there's Lois, who's like, oh, Smallville, like, what are you, a stupid idiot? No. They were having secret meetings all this time in that pipe. And that's why I'm like, there's another conclusion jumping, right? This is just the whole deal here of, how do you know this? And so you go on, and this is where Lois ends up seeing Connor. Oh, my God. Who's this? And I will read this because it is so ridiculously bad. It's a panel that is everybody talking, but nobody saying a damn thing. Hey, sorry, who is this? Hi, ma'am, I'm Connor. This is Connor, and did you win a contest or? Mom, Connor as well. It's really hard to explain, but in Grand Kent family tradition, you just said nothing. You said nothing in the most ridiculous way of doing it. Well, Red Cloud's back, ends up grabbing everybody. It's on the attack again. Hey there, Kent, we want you out. Get out of town. Ends up just screaming and yelling, and they end up taking care of Red Cloud once again. But John, he ended up kind of choking out. Now, again, let's go back to that scene before. Why didn't we just inhale her? Well, that would choke you out, John, just to remind people that that's what will happen 2 panels later. And so you end up having John. I think the oxygen got taken away. He didn't have a lot of oxygen to his brain because this panel, again, infuriating. Number one, you have a lot of call outs in books. It happens a lot in Batman where you'll call streets by the names of creators, classic creators of a Batman. You'll end up having, Frank Miller Avenue, right? And stuff like that. And so you do that a lot. Oftentimes it annoys me anyway. But what you have here is Brian Michael Bendis giving a shout out to a classic writer of Superman. Dan Jurgens wrote Death of Superman, and he's like, hey, Officer Jurgens. So Bendis is giving a shout out to Dan Jurgens in a book that he stole from Dan Jurgens when he came and grabbed from him and forced it out of his hands. Way to go, Dick. What a jerk. The Brian Michael Bendis is a straight up 100% asshole. So you end up then with John. I don't think he has oxygen to the brain. Connor says, hey, John. Actually says, yo, Johnny. You know what you have to do with these super mobsters. John, now the world's greatest detective, is on the case. I'm going to repeat that line again. Yo, John. You know what you have to do with these super mobsters? John's rubbing his chin like he's thinking, they are mobsters. Huh. Connor ignores that, which everybody should. And he says, you have to speak their language. It's the only one they understand. It's like, hey, John, you know what we should do in Metropolis? This is Metropolis. Oh, my. Oh, my, John. Really, somebody take him to the doctor. You end up then with Red Cloud going back to Leone and saying, we got to stick it to Superman. We got to do this. We got to take them down. He isn't going to fight dirty. We'll just go the full bore. Let's do it. And Leone she's always skirting the issue. She's always like, well, this would happen. He's Superman. Well, Red Cloud is now full out villain. We had her in the Justice League deal and Leviathan go against Leviathan with the Justice League. Never really had anything from that except one line earlier in this issue. Now she's just full out crazy and just wants to take out everything. Well, they are interrupted. They're interrupted because something happened down at the club. The club. And Leone's like, you mean the club that burnt down? And this guy says, no, the Black Label Club, the one that makes money. Now, this obviously is a joke that's saying that the Black Label books at DC are the only ones making money, the only ones that people like. Well, there is a reason, because you, Brian Michael Bendis, do not have a book on that, and you're a jerk. You're a jerk. So we go out where we're going to see what happened at the club, down at the Black Label Club, where Superman showed up. There's some drug deals going on. Everybody wants a little hit. They want a taste. The first taste is free. And he's like, hey, drugs are bad for you. You better get out. Now, these bad guys down at the club, they're like, hey, this isn't the real Superman. This must be somebody cosplaying. Like, well, why would you think that? You're bad guys. You're drug dealers. Superman shows up and it's just a cosplayer. It's just a jerk. And hey, private club, pal. And so they end up not believing that this is Clark Kent / Superman. So they open fire in a way that looks like they're shooting lasers. And the deflection and the idea of that John Romita Jr., it's not good. It just looks like it's overlaid on top. And then the gangsters, oh no, they all just shit their pants. And so you end up, what's going on is Superman is trying to clear out the club. And you end up having John. And earlier, when you ended up having Connor say, hey, these are super mobsters. They are mobsters. Connor then said we should go and talk to Brainiac 5. And seemingly going back to get the shrink ray that they call the Candor, which is ridiculous. And they shrink down the club. With everybody out of it, they shrink it down. And that's when this guy who showed up, while Leone and Red Cloud, oh my God, Superman blew up the club. No, ma'am, this. And he's sitting there, and where you have all of these lame jokes, where you have everything going on. Why didn't Leone say, what is that? A club for ants? See, this works. This sort of thing would work. But no, not in this book, because now this means war. The Kents now shrunk down the club, which looks like a factory. I hope that the club has a lot of windows there. It looks like a whole deal going on there. It's manufacturing misery is what it's doing in this book. But you end up having this doesn't even feel like anything that Superman would ever do. It's a weird deal to have it like, hey, everybody, this is called the Candor, and you better watch out. I'm like, no, that doesn't jive either. It's pretty damn right stupid is what it is. And that's where you end up, where this is the final straw. You don't shrink the club. Well, where are you going to go make it rain now? You can't. It's ridiculous. It's a club for ants. I'm going to break him now. You better let me break him. And that's where Leone's like, no. He's already broken, just to show Jimmy and Perry at the Daily Planet that's being taken over by the FBI and Cameron Chase. Yeah, I don't care. This book is hot garbage. It's terrible. It is awful. The art is awful. The dialogue is awful. The story is awful. The villains are awful. What else could be awful? This is one of the worst books going right now. The Superman books have been first hijacked by Brian Michael Bendis. I think he is an undercover agent from Marvel and is trying to bring down Superman because these are terrible. There's no reason to read these books. They suck. His whole Leviathan thing sucked. Everything he does sucks, and I'm sick of it. I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 10, and that's me being nice, because it has to have something. It's stapled together. The pages are in order, so you get that. It's just ridiculous. The one book that just drives me insane now, well, the one line of books, is anything that he writes. He's garbage. So there you go. 2.5. Did I say 2.5? I want to go down to 2 now. 2 it is. I hope I said 2.5, but that's that. So, hey, if anybody likes this, you can like it. If you disagree with me, that's fine. But really, I will argue about this book. Usually I'll say at the end of these, well, everybody can like what they want, and I'd love to hear your opinion. If you like this, I don't know what's wrong with you. You might have been choked out by Red Cloud. Really, because it's terrible. Terrible. But yeah, thanks, everybody. And if you like this video, like it below. And also subscribe to the channel. Look at all the notes below. I end up having links to all sorts of things, weird science, DC and Marvel podcast websites, all that sort of thing. But I thank you for watching this, and I'll talk to you later.